Right now, we go to something a little darker, the kind of friend who would help you hide his body. This one is a horror story, and I don't think I've captured it completely. I think I'm missing a few beats from it that I think are important, and also I'm not thrilled with the ending. So once I get to a certain point later in the story, I may write a new ending. I love the title already. I do put a lot of work into the titles, maybe more than I used to, and especially now that I'm on stream, I actually keep a dry erase board back here where I write down, like, anytime a phrase captures my attention or pops into my head, or I read it in a book or something like that that I think would make a cool title. I put that up on the board as a sort of a placeholder, and sometimes I have a story idea kind of already attached to the idea, and it's just kind of rolling around in my head as it sort of forms itself. Other times, I don't have any idea for it, and I'll come up with a story idea, and then I'll kind of look at the board for a title that fits. And sometimes one of the phrases that kind of caught my attention will fit itself here. This particular story, the story idea was kind of already baked into the title itself. So again, I don't think I nailed it on the first draft. Probably won't have it perfect on the second draft either. But I do think after I rework the ending and a few things, it's going to be better than it was. Everyone needs a friend that'll help them hide a body. That was kind of the idea behind it. I'm actually a kidney transplant patient, and I've always joked with the guy the live donor, a friend of mine from high school, who gave me a kidney, that I definitely would have to be his hide a body friend. I mean, someone literally gives you a kidney, you kind of have to be on their list. But I told him to kind of avoid having bodies that need hiding, because just the physical labor I don't think I'm up for right now. I like that strategy. Titles are so hard. Yeah, I do think, and I do think it's it's an underrated skill when it comes to writing. I don't think the title is the most important thing about a story, but I do think if you don't come up with a good title, at least, that you're leaving a lot of potential on the table. So I used to do a bunch of like one word titles, and they were not memorable to me. Like I couldn't remember them, so other people probably couldn't remember them either. But coming up with a great title a lot of times will, especially in like an anthology or something, it'll stand out, and people will remember, and they'll come back and check out some of your other writing. It also is a good hook to get someone to give your story a chance, whereas a more boring title won't. Now, all that to say, you probably don't want to put a ton of pressure on yourself to come up with the perfect title, because you can always come up with a different title later. But I do think that I was leaving a lot of potential on the table by not coming up with better titles in the past, so I put a lot more work into it. Tom says I always wind up changing the title after I finish because the original title is so far removed from what the story became. Yeah, especially if you're a pantser, where you kind of going by the seat of your pants with a story, it can take some turns in different directions, and sometimes you'll come up with a cool phrase just by accident in the story that's actually a better title for it. But yeah, I spent a good bit of time like keeping track of cool phrases and ideas that potentially could be cool titles, and it does take a lot of pressure off of me when I'm coming up with titles, and especially here on stream, I'm starting purely from the title most of the time, and so I really got to have something good to hook into the story, sometimes to hook myself into the story. All right, so let's take a look at the kind of friend who would help you hide his body. I will warn you that there is a dead body in the story, at least one, and a little bit of blood and such in it as well. So be forewarned that there's a touch of that stuff in here if you're not interested in hanging around. The kind of friend who would help you hide his body, by Jay Wilburn. The next shovelful of loose brown dirt spilled over his twisted neck. I've already found a typo there, so good thing it's just me and my good friends here to see that mistake. His jawline and covered one ear completely. His eyes stared out at nothing in the hole that was too shallow and uneven to be a proper grave, but was enough to cover his body for now. Let's say, if they hurried. Put a little more urgency in this, as if hiding a body is not urgent enough, I guess. Brittany paused with her empty shovel raised over his head as she thought about everything that had happened over the last few hours, everything planned and unplanned. In the interval, Alexandra managed to dump 2 more shovels full of dirt over the lower portions of his body. The dirt spread out as it landed with clothy slaps. I'm not sure that's a word, but I'm using it anyway. Jay Wilburn never made a typo in his life. Oh, that is the furthest from the truth ever. I am all typos. Unfortunately, some of them slip through into the publishing in the past, and I've worked hard to find good editors that at least eliminate all the typos, but typos are the bane of my existence in writing, I'm afraid. It's more pronounced here when I'm doing it all in front of people, but I struggle with that a lot in my writing and in publishing. Some of it cascaded into the pockets of his slacks or stuck in muddy swatches around the wet spots at his groin. He would have never sat still and quiet getting his pants dirty like that in life. Let me add one more little line here. It wasn't up to him anymore, though. Add a little subtle darkness to the story there. Brittany finally turned away and stabbed the spade of her shovel into the uneven pile of unearthed dirt between her and Alexandra. It wasn't bad the entire time, Alex. Alexandra pooched her lower lip. Apparently I can't read right now either. And blew a couple stray strands of sweaty hair out of her eyes. Before she answered, she took a moment to break up the heavier clods of dark clay in their dirt pile. Whatever you say, Britt, but obviously it was bad enough. Brittany couldn't help but laugh at that. It was a tired coffee noise, but Alex could still make her laugh. She swung the next heft... all right, I don't know what word I was trying to say. She swung the next blank shovel full... Maybe hefty? That would make more sense. I'm making typos that baffle myself. All right, she swung the next hefty shovel full over his head and paused again before she turned the load over. Most of it missed his head, but several crumbs covered his face and the odd shape of his pale lips, and sprinkled all through his hair. She supposed they needed to fill the entire hole, so it wasn't exactly a miss. I'm just saying all relationships are complicated. Alex dropped a few loose pieces of clay around his thighs. It sort of made him look like he had an accident. Let's say a dirty accident. Let's say filthy. She supposed this was indeed one hell of an accident. I don't know why you were still trying to talk him up at this point, Britt. All right. Just realized I typed this message out and forgot to hit enter. Titles and names are my arch nemesis. Yeah, I think... names especially, yeah. I don't take a lot of notes on these, but I do have a Post-it, and I'll typically look up names beforehand. Part of it is to keep me from using the same names over and over again. But before I do a story, I'll just cruise the internet, usually looking at street names, looking at like baby name lists, and I'll pick names for characters, and I'll pick street names, I'll pick town names. If it's a fantasy, I'll pick kingdom names as well. So I get a lot of that name stuff ahead of time, and it kind of keeps me from like struggling through. Now, of course, every once in a while, I'll have to add another character I wasn't planning on, and then come up with another name. And sometimes I have to change those in the editing because I do tend to use the same names over and over if I don't consciously choose something different. So yeah, that's a lot of my prep is coming up with titles and names ahead of time. I don't know. I'm still trying to get my head around everything. She turned away from his, I gotta say her name again. Say Britt. Because now we've abbreviated their names to one syllable, mostly for the author's convenience. Britt turned away from his slowly filling grave to shrink the dirt pile a little more. Let's say one. Shrink the dirt pile another shovel full more. All right. Bard Owl says, for some reason, Sam and Alex are the only names I can ever remember when I'm writing, and now I just know, well, I'm going to have to go back and rename Sam and Alex. One of my favorite stories about that is I was putting together a short story collection, and it just grabbed some of my better stories in the past and put them all together and was editing it in order. And about 5 out of the... Should we discuss Jeff and Beyonce? There you go. About 5 out of the first 7 stories had a character named Jeff in it. And I didn't realize how often I was using Jeff until I picked... Literally, some of these stories had been written years apart, but I was constantly reusing the name Jeff without realizing it. So I limited myself to one Jeff in the entire short story collection and went through and changed the others. And there was one story where I'd changed all the Jeffs to somebody else, but I'd missed one Jeff. So it was just sitting there in the middle of a story where there had been no Jeff previously. And the editor, was going through, and her note on that particular point was, "Who the hell is Jeff?" And I was like, "Yes, exactly. Who the hell is Jeff? Why does he keep showing up in my stories?" I'll just have one Jeff as a treat. There you go. So every once in a while, I'll throw a Jeff, especially here on stream, because a lot of my friends who jump on here know my perils with Jeff. So every once in a while, I'll just name a character Jeff for old time's sake, and keep him in there. All right. One shovelful more. Did he always wear a cardigan like that? Not even ironically. Like, that's literally how he wore it. All right, I need another question mark here. Got to be generous with those question marks, especially when I wrote a question. Britt took another look with her shovel still speared in the dirt. His light blue sweater was tied around his neck like a cape. He wore it that way when he played tennis, just like his father did. She always kind of hated it, but that had nothing to do with why she killed him. She didn't think. Alright. The knot of the sleeves had pulled taut at his neck during the surprisingly brief struggle. He was an okay tennis player, but was worthless in any fight where his victim decided to defend herself. Britt showed her teeth as she wrestled loose. I've already said loose a few times. I'm going to say away here. Wrestled away some more dirt. It does make him look like a real asshole, doesn't it? All right. Need another question mark. I was being stingy with the question marks. Apparently I was saving them for a special occasion. He was a real asshole. I'm going to italicize was, since Alex is agreeing with her. Britt said there was blood on the sweater. That's why I decided to leave it on him and bury him with it. Yeah, that's probably smart. Both young women poured in more dirt at the same time. Whether consciously or not, they both piled it over that fuzzy sweater. Thank you for helping me with this, Alex. I didn't know who to call. Alex gave a little chuckle as they attacked the diminishing dirt again. So I'm your bury a body friend, huh? All right, I need to change that to an apostrophe because it's italics, or I'm sorry, quotation marks within quotation marks. I don't know. I guess you are now. I just thought of you, and you were the first and only person I thought to call. I'm actually kind of flattered by that. Let's use her name again so people aren't confused with the dialogue. Alex said, but I'm hoping this won't be a regular thing. Very funny. Let's just finish this up. I'm exhausted. All right. Okay. They filled the hole in unison again. Alex focused on burying his crotch. Britt decided she had seen enough of his face and set about covering it over, let's say, for good. Usually good editing involves taking words out. I'm adding a few in, though. As they continued the back-breaking work of over, I don't think over is the right word, of covering up a murder, the women drew ragged, heavy breaths from their efforts. He mostly just yelled at me. He only tried to hit me a few times. He never really connected, let's say, in the past. I'm trying not to be terribly specific with whatever their conflict was, because I don't think they would necessarily repeat it all if they already knew it. It's kind of, it's one of those tricks in a story where like you can end up doing a lot of information dump that would be how people would talk if you need the reader to learn details, but not how they would talk if they already knew the details. So it's a tricky balance, but if you get it right, I think it makes stories better. Alex sighed. I have a lot of characters sighing, but let's leave that in for now. Alex sighed and continued her work beside her friend. Again, I'm not sure why you're telling me this. I just don't want you to think that I let him mistreat me that way for a long time. I don't want to be seen as a victim. This is what the replace all function is good for. There you go. Yeah. There's definitely a few sighs in there, and that's one thing editors will nail you on. They don't like your characters sighing all the time. They also don't like your characters nodding all the time either. It's kind of a bad habit. All right. Britt, we're burying him. I think he had it coming. I'm not going to lose any sleep that Tylenol can't fix. Clearly, you're not the victim today. I don't like to think of myself as a killer either. I guess I am, though. Alex didn't answer at first, but finally said all he had to do was leave you alone, and he'd still be alive. This is his doing. You're just going to make sure that none of this comes back on you. He doesn't deserve... Oh, let me spell that right. Oh, why don't I spell all the words right while I'm here? He doesn't deserve... Apparently I cannot hit the D to save my life. He doesn't deserve to hurt you any longer, especially in death. Alright, there we go. My characters make no movements whatsoever. They're anti-mimes. Now, see, that's a bold move, sir. Bro Dan, thank you for the follow. Yeah, if you can make the characters do nothing during the story and make it work, that's pretty amazing. Every once in a while, I'll try to do a story that like breaks rules. So I've tried to write a story that had no characters in it before. It was very tricky. I've written a story that was all dialogue tags, but no dialogue. I've written a story that was all mirror scenes. Head hopping is something you're not supposed to do in stories, where you move from one character's point of view to another in the middle of a scene without some sort of break in between. But I wrote a story called Head Hopping, where I had sort of this demon jumping between characters, and when it jumped into someone else's mind, it kind of absorbed their identity and thoughts and continued its actions from like their standpoint. So I kind of wrote the story so that I could officially head hop within the story itself. So every once in a while I try to write something that very much like breaks the rules and try to make it work at the same time. I guess that's kind of what I did with the previous story, trying to write a true utopian story, which is very hard because typically the best utopian stories are really dystopian stories. All right. They will think it was me, though. No one knew we had broken up yet. Even if they did, they'd still come to me when they noticed. They'll still come to me when they notice he's missing. Okay, she's talking present tense, of course. Should I report it? I wouldn't. Alex went for more dirt. Britt leaned on her shovel a moment longer. They'll want to know why I didn't call. You can just say he sometimes stopped calling or coming to see you days or weeks at a time. Often He didn't answer his phone. That's the truth, right? I definitely wouldn't mention the breakup if they ever do ask you. Okay, very good. So head hopping is not following the Grateful Dead around the country. Nope. It's when you don't have your point of view nailed down in the story, and editors hate it. And apparently, I do it a lot more than I thought. All right, sure, but they will make our relationship sound. Sure, but that will make our relationship sound troubled. It will make me more of a suspect. Everyone knew your relationship was troubled, Britt. They'll just be surprised it was him that disappeared instead of you. Her mouth dropped open a little as she watched her friend continue to bury the body. You guys thought he was going to kill me? Alex shrugged and then winced. He seemed the type. Britt returned to the work. His face and most of his hair was covered. She decided she didn't like that twist in his neck and started covering that next. Alex paused and then placed one palm over Britt's shovel to still her as well. What is it? Shh, listen. They did. Voices drew closer and then footsteps. Alex squatted down behind what remained of the dirt pile. Britt joined her. She started to wish there was more of the dirt remaining. The group of four came into view in the distance. Beyond the trees. Britt narrowed her eyes. Is that... Shh. Just stay quiet. All right. The two females and two males paused as if they might have smelled something or felt something, felt some sort of psychic disturbance. If they turned just right, they could spy the scene. Maybe they would notice something was amiss. Let's say maybe not. They might even see the poorly hidden women. The four of them continued on and out of sight. What are they doing here? Alex whispered. There's hiking trails, but not back here. Nowhere near here. No way they came here before. No way. What are they doing out here now, Alex? Alex finally stood back up straight, holding her lower back. Britt stayed in a crouch. Alex said, I don't know, but we can't stop now. We can. We can. We can leave before we are seen. Alex stared a moment as if considering it. No, we need to finish. The longer he goes unfound, the better. I just don't get it. Casey hates hiking anyway. Why today? Why all of them? Just coincidence. Don't read any more into it than that. Come on, let's hurry. Britt stood again and kept her eyes set upon the distance where the four had vanished, and she tried to shovel quietly, as if such a thing were possible. I'm going to do a new paragraph here. What could be worse than being spotted burying your dead boyfriend by a group of your friends? She supposed having strangers find you in the act. No, let's say catch. We'll be more specific. Having strangers catch you in the act wouldn't be much better. All right, very good. I think I'm improving the story. We'll see when we get to the ending that needs to be changed. So that was Casey. So let's say no. So that really was Casey. Yes, her and Allison, and that looked like Derek too. Who was the other guy? Someone Allison is seeing from work. She brought him to that party at the lake. Remember, it was the one where he threw Kool-Aid on me for bumping him. Britt motioned toward the hole as if Alex might not recall who threw the Kool-Aid. Not Allison's guy. I mean him. I remember. I don't know his name. I don't know Allison's guy's name, though. She'll say, I remember what happened. Alright. Moving along. I can't remember either. Britt focused her efforts on covering his body, even though there was still a ton of hole to fill in all around him. So is Casey with Derek? No, I don't think so. I think he just tags along with them. Does he want to date her? Britt shrugged. Every guy wants something, I guess. Britt shrugged, and a knot of muscle between her shoulders tightened. There we go. Brittany, Alexandra, what are you guys doing? Both women froze in place as they stared at Casey just a few feet away. She had come from the opposite direction from where the four had been seen earlier. It felt like not nearly enough time for her to circle around to the other side of where they were digging. All right. Britt looked back and forth. What are you doing over here? I thought you were hiking with Allison and the guys over there. Casey narrowed her eyes. Allison's guy brought us out here to see some property his dad is buying. That sounds like a weird trip, Alex said. It is kind of weird. Casey looked at the shovels the other women held and the hole that she couldn't quite see into from down the slope where she stood. What's his name, anyway? Britt asked. Casey's mouth twisted up and she said, I don't remember, and it's been too long to ask again. I hate that, Britt said. She thought her voice was quivering. It felt like it was shaking to her anyway. Me too. Casey took a step forward. Seriously, what are you two doing out on this property? Are the others nearby? Alex asked. What are you doing by yourself? Casey. All right. I had to get away from Derek. He's being weird. I think he likes me, and I don't know how to let him down easy. Did he follow you? Alex stepped around the dirt pile, holding her shovel down by her side. I hope not. I'm going to have to go back sometime. Seriously, what are you two... Are you burying a body? Casey stepped out to the edge of the hole and stared down at the feet and one hand still in sight. Tom Duffy says Christopher Moore wrote a book called Noir where he head hops a little but mainly switches POV from first to third a lot. It shouldn't work, but it does. Yeah, I know Stephen King switched from first to third and back to first in the book Christine, which really threw me. And it doesn't count as head hopping if you have a scene break. So if you do a break in the scene and you go to someone else's point of view, that's not considered head hopping. And if you do it between chapters, between clearly defined chapters, that's not considered head hopping. It's just when in the middle of the action or the middle of a scene without a clear break, you go from one person to another. So I don't know if he did that in I don't know if Alan Moore did that in the middle of his work, but that's kind of the rules of head hopping anyway. Casey stepped up to the edge of the hole and stared down at the feet and one hand still in sight. He was trying to hurt me. I had no choice, Britt said. Casey swallowed a few times. You killed him. It happened fast. I called Alex to help me deal with it. This isn't her fault. She had nothing to do with it. Okay? Alright. Is that who I think it is? Please, Casey. Alex raised the shovel over her head as Casey bent over the hole. Britt's eyes went wide, but she made no move to stop what was about to happen. Everything about her and this day felt so very heavy. It weighed her down. Say, slowly crushing her. Alright. That kind of gives us a feel of how her mind is working right now. Casey stood back up straight. Let me fix that typo. Stood back up straight. You need to hurry before the others come. I might be able to keep them away, but it will probably be better if I help. Do you have a third shovel? Alex lowered her shovel. Are you serious? We're friends. He was terrible to you, Brittany. I'm not surprised this happened. I'm just glad it wasn't you. Told you, Alex said. Seriously, we need to hurry. Casey waved her hands at the other two. Take Britt's shovel, Casey. She could use a break. Casey reached out and Britt handed it over. I did my share. We need to move faster. Alex went back. No, let me make that a period because that is not a dialogue tag. Alex went back to work and Casey joined her. Thank you guys, Britt said. She bent over and held her knees, trying to catch her breath, either from exertion. That's not how that's spelled. Okay, it fixed it for me. Either from exertion, fear, or both. There we go. Much better. Christopher Moore. I don't know why I said Alan Moore in the middle of what I was saying back there. The work continued for a few minutes. Britt whispered, Alex, Casey, there's someone... There you are, Derek said as he emerged from the same thicket Casey had come from. I thought you were lost. Hey, Alex. Hey, Brittany. What are you two doing out here? Do you know... Wait, what are you guys digging up? This isn't your property. Whatever is out here belongs to... Casey swung hard and obliterated one of Derek's eyeballs as she sliced through his orbital lobe with the edge of Britt's shovel. All right, I guess warning. I apologize. Alan Moore can do whatever he wants. There you go. I apologize for the gore here. If it's not your thing, I understand if you need to move on. He covered his face with both hands and started to cry out as he staggered. Alex cut off the noise with a careful jab through his forearms. Let's say between his forearms. I did say between his forearms. What am I doing? Careful jab between his forearms into the soft base of his throat with the tip of her shovel, turning the start of a scream into nothing more than a gagging choke. Derek fell to his knees on the edge of the hole. All right, let me say some of the dirt still clinging there. Crumbled down the rough walls. His entire body heaved for air that seemed unwilling to enter his lungs. The women exchanged looks over the top of him. There was no clear communication that Britt picked up on. She only saw her own fear and confusion reflected back at her on their faces. Alex took the next hard swing, slicing deep into the back of his head. The impact was loud and wet. Derek fell silent and toppled over into the hole. His weight imprinted in the loose dirt, making it appear that much of their labor had been undone. His sneakers remained his weight imprinted, let's say, face down. Face down in the loose dirt, making it appear that much of their labor had been undone. His sneakers remained on the edge. Britt took a step to push his feet off into the hole, but his legs slid the rest of the way into the hole, into the grave on their own. There we go. Derek started to convulse. There was a clicking noise in the back of his throat. Let's say Britt had a disconnected thought that he was smothering in the dirt and they needed to roll him over. Casey lifted the shovel and drove it down into his head over and over until it split open, and Derek finally fell silent. Fell still in the puddle of his brains. All right, again, I apologize. Britt's stomach tightened up harder than her shoulders. She turned away and breathed slowly through her nose. Her thoughts now went to the idea that she shouldn't throw up, or the police might identify her from it. She wasn't sure that was true, but she realized she was starting to think like a killer as the bodies piled up in the hole. The need to eject from her stomach, the need to eject her stomach contents finally passed. Casey, let's say, still heaved for breath and huffed out, "We have to hurry." Alright, Bardo, 100% I'm pretty sure I was created specifically for that. That's funny. They started raking the dirt into the hole that now held two bodies. Britt dropped to her knees and used her hands and then her feet to shove the dirt over the side. Derek covered up faster than the first guy had. Let's say extra hands make light work, Britt thought. All right. They had almost filled the double grave to the top when voices approached. The three of them laid down flat at the edge of the thicket and stared across at Allison and her guy in the distance. "Casey," she called. All right, I'm going to put an exclamation point. "Derek," he called after. "It's time to go, Allison. It's time to go," Allison yelled again. They think I'm out having sex with him, I bet, Casey whispered. Gross. Allison and the guy started down the trail away from the scene. Over here, Casey yelled. She started to get up, but Alex grabbed her shoulder. What the hell do you think you're doing? I can't let them leave, Casey said. I'll come back. I'll come back and Derek will turn up missing. I can't let them leave, Casey said. I'll have to show back up sometime. And Derek will turn up missing. They'll know I had something to do with it. So what are you going to do exactly? Britt asked. We need to see where they are on all this, Casey said. His dad is buying this land. I'm not sure he'll be cool with it. I'm not sure Allison will be able to let it go either. So what then? Alex asked. Casey, Allison shouted from the top of the hill. Where are you? Down here. Casey stepped out of the thicket and waved. She then lowered her voice. No one saw me come with them. We might need to dig another hole, I think. All right. Yeah, I'm about to add a new ending to this. Alex looked at Britt and said, maybe you should have called Casey instead. Britt shrugged and felt the day's labor through all her muscles down her back. It's turning into a weird day. Casey joined them. No. It's turning into a weird day. I'm glad she didn't take the shovel with her. Casey joined the couple at the top of the hill. They spoke. Alright, I'm going to eliminate this last paragraph because that was a shortcut to the story that did not pay out, I don't think. Casey joined the couple at the top of the hill. They spoke quietly. They spoke too quiet to hear. And the three of them walked out of sight. What do we do? Britt asked. What does that mean? I don't know. Need to finish this and get the hell out of here. Alright. Let's say with two bodies in the hole, it filled back up before the dirt pile was done. They proceeded to spread out the rest of the dirt around the area. Alex's phone rang in her pocket. Alright, I'm gonna have her cuss. Shit. She wrestled it out of her tight jeans. She wrestled it out of her tight jeans and answered it. No, and stared at it a moment. Britt looked up the hill and back at Allison. No, sorry. Back at Alex, holding the still ringing phone. Turn that damn thing off before someone hears us. It's Allison, though. What? Allison. Allison is calling me. What? Why? I don't know. Don't answer it. I have to. Why, Alex? Because if she's calling, it has to do with Casey. It has to do, if she's calling, because if she's calling, it might have something to do with what Casey said. I don't know, Alex. I don't know, Alex. This feels like a time to let it go to voicemail. But Alex answered. The voice on the other end was loud and frantic, but unintelligible. Whoa. Whoa. Hold on. Alex looked at Britt with eyes wide. Britt shook her head and held up both hands. Alex hit the speaker phone option and said, "Repeat that, Allison. What did you say?" Casey tried to kill me. Allison's tinny voice emerged from, well, let's say cried out from the phone. Casey tried to kill me. She killed Peter. we got into a fight and she hit her head. She's not breathing. They're both dead. I'm out here alone. Holy shit, Alex said as she looked at Britt. Say look to Britt, let's say. Yeah, I like this ending better. This is going to be good. As she looked to Britt, Britt whispered, Peter. That's his name. Who is that? Allison asked from the phone. Do you have me on speaker? Don't be crazy, Alex said as she held a finger over her lips to signal for Britt to stay quiet. You know how reception is at the dorms. Casey tried to kill you. She's dead. Peter's dead. Allison was crying. Was crying now. She acted all crazy. Wouldn't tell us where Derek was. When Peter tried to walk back to look for him, she hit him with a rock. Caved in his head. Then she came for me. I had no choice. I'm out here alone. I'm out at the old Dexter Farm property off of Route 14. I don't know what to do. Call the police, Alex said. Britt shook her head. Alex held up a halting hand. held up a halting hand at Britt. Alright, I think I got this just about nailed here. Alright. Called the police, Alex said. Britt shook her head. Alex held up a halting hand at Britt. I can't. This will ruin my life. It's Casey's fault. What she did to Peter. Whatever might have happened to Derek, it's all her fault. Britt slapped her forehead and gave 2 thumbs up to Alex. Alex smiled and nodded. No, I need you to come help me. Alex, please. Help you do what? I need to get out of here. No one knows I came with Peter. I can say that I need to get out of here. No one knows I came with Peter. I can say that he came out here with Casey and Derek without me. Derek might not tell the same story if he's still alive, Allison. Allison started crying again. Just call the police. They'll see what happened. Alex repeated. Hold on, we're in the home stretch here. No. No. I'm not letting this ruin my life. I have a future. I won't be the person people stare at. Jesus, Alex said. I didn't know who else to call. You need to hurry. Get out here as fast as you can. Pick me up so it doesn't look like I was ever here. If Derek is still alive, we can blame it on him. If not, then it will look like Casey or Peter did it. People will still talk about me, I guess, but it won't be as bad if I wasn't ever here. Alex took a deep breath and said, okay, I'll get there as fast as I can. She hung up. Holy shit. Alex, what now? Alex said, we need to get the shovels out of here. We need to clean up ourselves and our clothes. I need to get you back to campus and then come pick up Allison. Why the hell am I the one everyone calls, everyone thinks to call to cover up murders? Do I give off some kind of vibe or something? How long is all this going to take? We better go now. They turned and made their way back through the woods toward the car. Allison would call 4 more times before Alex reached her alone and cleaned up. She just pretended to have gotten lost on the way. Allison didn't want to talk on the way back to campus. But Alex was fine with that because she had also had a very long and stressful day. All right, boom.